Guashuku Polytechnic. So a letter with the reference number RG, DSPG, EXR, VRO sound like someone who was serious about taking action. Then I also reached out to the chairman of the governing board of the school, and we spoke extensively, but he was sounding naive or ignorant of what is happening, because according to him, he was just newly appointed to be the chairman of the school's governing board, and he didn't know that such a thing is happening in the school. Then he suggested that I come to Asaba so we talk about it, and he was offering to pay my flight, but I turned it down. I told him to set up a committee, investigate the school, and then get his facts. Then I can send him the documents that I have of my findings, so that those who are found guilty will be penalized.
Okay.
But he never did that.
Okay.
So that was what my response or going to be.
Okay, so you were also trying to liaise with them. I don't know. I think the guys are struggling to join us at VOP, but it's ample across our platforms here. I want also callers to call to ask one or two vital questions. So if you are listening to this interview across all my platforms, 0818-099-1991, 0818-099-1991. That's the line to get us on. I don't know what is happening today. You know, our connection links are very wonky at the connecting points to the studios, but it's still going out definitely across all my platforms. I mean, this exposure is going out close to 1 million people, about 300,000 on my Facebook page, and over 400,000 on my Instagram page. So we have some population watching this, and the exposure is going out. I don't know the VOP guys. I don't know what's wrong with them this morning. I don't know what's going on. So if you want to ask questions, 0818-099-1991. I will also want you to, all those recordings, audio recordings you got, let's document them and let's put them out here. You sent me a message that was allegedly written by Ogwashi.
Yes.
But, I doubt that veracity of that message. I don't know. We want them to also look at it, not just to dismiss it and investigate again. 0818.
Someone sent it to me on Facebook.
Yeah, so 0818-099-1991. 0818-099-1991. You can call us up on that line. One. So if we got calls in. One other question I also want to ask you is,
okay,
in all of this, you never allow you to see the registrar, right?
Okay, I only saw him from a distance while we were walking to his office. He never made me have a one-on-one with him, but I actually got into his office and sat at the reception while he walked inside.
I love to sing about the love of Christ. It's real and it's perfect. It means that when God looks at you, no matter who you are, he says Christ. Christ is love, and love is Christ. It's the safest place to be. So it's a real simple song I sing, and you sing after me. Can we do it? All right.
Your name is glorious. Oh
powerful. Oh Jesus, your name is glorious. Oh Jesus, oh Jesus, oh Jesus, oh Jesus. Your name is power. It's powerful. Oh Jesus, your name is glorious. It's glorious, oh God. Oh Jesus, your name is powerful than any fuss in this world. You are glorious and faithful in all your ways. Your name is powerful than any fuss in this world. You are glorious and faithful in all your ways. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Jesus. Your name is powerful. Oh, Jesus. Your name is glorious. Oh, Jesus. Your name is powerful than any fuss in this world. You are glorious. And faithful. Your name is powerful than any fuss in this world. Oh, sweet Jesus, you're glorious, you're glorious and faithful in all your ways.
Hello, good day. My name is Abiodun Adetu, and I'm the convener of Niger Market Day. Niger Market Day is an event that happens in North America, particularly Canada. So what we do at Niger Market Day is that we bring the local flavors of Nigerian market, of the typical Oshodi market, Idumota market, Wuse market, Garaki market, Sebongari market, these beautiful markets that we have in Nigeria, we bring them to the heart of Canada, a city at a time. This year, we are visiting 8 different cities, from Ontario to Manitoba to Alberta, to all the great provinces and cities in Canada. We are taking them one city at a time. And we already, from our past events, enjoy a lot of attraction from the media. In fact, last year, Voice of America came all the way from the US to come witness the Niger Market Day. We've had several news agencies come around to just see what we are doing and report live on it. So we have local food, edikaikon, amala, we have vegetables, everything you can see in your local market. In fact, the way we are displayed in our local markets here in Nigeria is the exact way we do it in Canada. So it's just basically like, twinning what we do here in Nigeria with what we have brought to Canada, and it has been so well received. So many people haven't been home in a long time. It gives them an opportunity to just enjoy, take it all in, enjoy the market, enjoy and feel like they are back home. Our kids, they haven't been home. Some of them haven't been home in forever. Some have never been home. They were born abroad. They come into the market and they see how things are happening, and they fall in love with their culture. So what we do in Niger Market Day is basically taking culture to those in the abroad, like those that have jackpot a long time ago. We take the culture back to them, and it's a sight to behold. It's a wonderful sight. Our handle is at Niger Market Day. You can see some of our videos on YouTube and also on Instagram. It's at Niger Market Day. You can see several of our events right there on TikTok as well. What impact are we making? Basically, what we are doing is showcasing our culture, our rich African market culture, local culture to the people that we now live with or that we now call family in Canada or any part of the world where we are. We showcase ourselves through our culture. You see someone selling dundun, you see someone selling boli, you see corn, you see amala, you see Ibo's peppered rice, you see clothes, you see earrings, you see accessories, you see shoes, you see even artwork, so many things. You see veggies like ugu, you even see the seedlings, yam. We put it all there. And outside the product, our vendors, we call them market people, they are ready to give you the vibe. My Igbo guys will be there, they'll be pulling you to say, my color, come and buy. We have bend down select where you can bend down and pick what you need. We have people selling electronics. It's just the fun and the vibes of the market that brings everybody together. Igbo, Hausa, Bibi, Yoruba, everybody will come together and we make the market fun. It's not just business for us, it is also creating culture. And I mean, our small businesses through this is thriving. Our businesses, local businesses in Nigeria, like the big brands and the small brands, and our products, they are thriving in Canada. Why? Because of the Niger Market Day. So we invite everybody to be a part of Niger Market Day. Send us a DM at Niger Market Day. At Niger Market Day is the handle on TikTok, on Instagram particularly. And then you can also use at Babsomo Communications for LinkedIn or Facebook or other platforms. So those are the two handles we use. Send us a DM if you want to be a part of Niger Market Day, and we can see how we can make it work. Majorly, what we cannot do is get like a salesperson on this side that can handle your sales for you for the markets for that day, or at the different markets places where we'll be going. And you can take it, like I said, this year we are going to 8 different cities, so we hope that it's going to be bigger and bigger, spreading the Nigerian message everywhere we go. So thank you very much for the interview. Thank you, Rufai. It's been amazing talking to folks about Niger Market Day. One other thing we do that I didn't mention earlier is Kara Magazine. So at Kara Magazine, what we do with that magazine is to equip our children with the knowledge of who they are through history, through culture, through food, recipes, tourism, and a host of other things. We teach them about the continent of Africa, bringing all of this into perspective and teaching them to value themselves. And while we are teaching them, we are also teaching future leaders of tomorrow that are not Nigerians or Africans to also learn to know more about Africa. Thank you very much. That's all for me today. Do have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Hello people, my name is Abiodun Adetu. I am the conveyor of Niger Market Day. Niger Market Day is a program that happens in different parts of Canada, and basically what we try to do is to bring the Nigerian local market or the African local market into any space. A lot of people have been out of the country for a while now, so my Niger Market, they just give them that feeling of being in Oshodi Market or Isaleko Market or Garki Market or any of those big markets in Nigeria, really. So that's what we do. We have a lot of local products, local food. We just bring the culture to North America through the market, and it has been wonderfully received. In the past editions that we've had over 3 thousands of people coming in and out at different times, shopping local. Our kids that haven't been home and some that have been home a long time come in and they're just wild. They just want to fall in love with their country more. So I mean, we're just using the market to reach out to people to say, you know what, telling takisa and taton, like Yoruba people will say, this is our own, this is our culture. Because in this part of the world, I mean, you could walk into a store and nobody says hello. Like, in a typical market, it's lively, it's friendly, everybody's like, watching out for you. Or until someone that is not in your business will just come to your business. Or you see my Igbo boys just pull you and say, my color, come here and I come by. All those kind of things, we don't get them in the abroad. But at the Niger Market Day, we make sure that is happening. We have different people, different categories of vendors, and the way they display all their products are very, very local. So you just think you've been transferred or transformed, moved to a Nigerian market. And that's basically what the Niger Market Day is about. And one other thing we do is Kara Magazine. Kara Magazine just helps to teach our children, especially about who they are, their culture, value who they are through, learning about history, about culture, about food, about music. I mean, we just take them through that journey of self-realization and placing some value on themselves. So that's what Kara Magazine is about, and those are the major things we do at Babsomo Communications, which is the mother parent body of Niger Market Day and Kara Magazine. I mean, the impact we have made over the years is basically reminding people that home is home no matter where you are.
Commander of the Order of the Niger is a Nigerian economist and the president of the African Development Bank. He previously served as Nigeria's Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Dr. Adesina is the 8th elected president of the African Development Bank Group. He was first elected to the position on May 18, 2015, by the bank's Board of Governors at its annual meetings held in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and was re-elected for his second term in 2020, becoming the first president in the bank's history to be re-elected unopposed. Under his leadership, AFDB has pursued bold initiatives aimed at transforming Africa's economic landscape and fostering sustainable development. Under Adesina's leadership, AFDB has prioritized 5 key areas known as the High Fives to accelerate Africa's development. These include Light Up and Empower Africa, Feed Africa, Industrialize Africa, Integrate Africa, and improve the quality of life for Africans. However, despite progress, Africa still faces challenges such as high debt levels, slow industrialization, and climate change threats. In this interview with Morning Show anchor Rufai Oseni, Dr. Adesina continues to advocate for increased investment in Africa and innovative financing solutions, including greater private sector involvement and what will become of his life after the presidency at the AFDB.
Ladies and gentlemen, to this great session with the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akume Adesina. I mean, needs no introduction with his myriads of impact projects all over the African continent. In fact, it's apt to call it Mr. Africa himself because of his developmental strides across the continent with the bank and starting from Nigeria. But let's go back, to the very beginning. 65 years ago, when you were born, if they told you that this will be your future, would you believe it?
No, there's no way that I could have projected this kind of future. The only thing that I can say is what is constant is God's grace and propelling power. And what you have to just do in life is trust in God, do all the things you have to do. And His grace takes you exactly to where He wants you to do. And the way I look at life is that my life is nothing more than being an instrument in the hands of God to do whatever He has designed. And so I make myself available. But when I was born into a pretty low-income family. My father grew up as a farmer, and he didn't go to school until he was 14 years old. And except for a benefactor that came to the village. My father literally attached himself to his coattails and said that he had to go to school. So he took him to Lagos. And he was so generous. He put my dad to school, sent him to Igbobi College. At that time, it was like going to King's College in the UK. And that was how my dad actually started in the civil service from very, very low ranks. But we moved. I was born in Ibadan, and we moved all around and stuff like that. But God kept me alive, and God gave me grace, and I continued to move on. But there's no way I would have known that I would have ended here. But the only thing that I knew was that I had great values. I had excellent parents who taught me to love people, to be hardworking, to sacrifice for people. I never looked down on anybody. Look, I don't have property I'm going to give you. But the only thing I will give you is education. And I really want you to know that with good education, you can be at the same level with children of permanent secretaries. In those days, federal permanent secretaries were the big guys, in government. And it came to pass. And just to say that education is the best legacy my father ever gave me.
And they taught you how to dance too, I should.
Oh, yes.
I should say that. But starting out in university, you had to go through the grind, as they say. It wasn't easy. After you got your first class going to Purdue, there were some really hard times. How did you surmount those hard times? And what did those hard times teach you?
First and foremost, I was very fortunate. In the university I went to, of course, I don't know which university you went to, but I went to University of Ife, not the Obafemi Awolowo University of today, but the University of Ife. And I had the blessing of having excellent professors. My professors were trained in some of the best universities around the world, because at that time, in the US, in UK, Oxford, Cambridge, and top universities in the US, that's where they all went. So I had the benefit of world-class education in Nigeria. And of course, from there, I went on to United States. And that experience was a different experience, because, when I arrived in the United States, I didn't really have money, because the federal government scholarship that I had wasn't paid. And so I had put together 250 naira at the time, which was a lot of money at that time. It was the dollar was 1-to-1, literally to the dollar. Dollar was 1-1 to the naira. And then I went to the federal government of Nigeria's consulate office in New York. And that was an experience, because when I got over there, the guy who was there said, "Well, I hear you just came from to United States from Lagos." I said, "Yes, we just arrived in this morning." He said, "For what?" I said, "Here are my papers saying I'm federal government scholar." He said, "No, we're going to send you back to Nigeria, because we haven't even paid the rent for this building for 6 months.
Wow.
So forget about whether you can get any money from there." So here was I in the United States with only $250 with me, and myself and one other guy who finished from University of Nsukka. He was a first-class honors. His name was actually Emeka Ojukwu. I hope one day I will get to see him. And he was going to Texas, and we were there in the embassy. And as we sat in the embassy, one guy walked in. He said, "Look, you can't get money out of here except God breaks a bank in New York." I said, "No, God will not break a bank in New York, but I'll get my money." And so anyway, we went and stayed in one, shanty hotel somewhere that we were paying $20. The hotel, room had no, the door wouldn't lock, so we took a double bunk. We used it to shock the door. Yeah, and that was how we in the morning I told the guy. I said, "Emeka, look, do you pray?" He said, "No, he doesn't pray." I said, "It doesn't matter." I said, "I pray. And the Bible tells me that whatever two of you shall agree on earth shall be agreed for you, my Father that's in heaven." I said, "If I pray, can you say amen?" He said, "That I can do." I said, "So go ahead and do. I pray, you say amen." And so we prayed, and he said amen. We got to the Nigerian embassy. Same guy walked in. He said, you guys are still here? I said, we're here. He said, no. God has to break a bank here because you cannot get your money here. Wow. Well, anyway, cut a long story short, the consul general asked, bring in one of these guys. So they came in and called me. And I walked right through this long office. I saw the guy. And they just said, pay this guy. So that was how I was paid.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I went in and I sat down. 2 minutes after, they called in America. And that was how he was paid. And after that, they called the New York Police Department to empty the entire embassy. Wow. So all I wanted to say by that was from the moment I stepped into the United States, I saw the mercy and the grace and favors of God from the very first day. And that was actually how I actually got, I spent $750 because it gave me $500. And I spent $750 for 6 months. Can you imagine? My rent was $100 a month. Plus $600. I had $150.
And you were married?
No, I wasn't married.
You wasn't married?
Oh yeah, nobody would marry me at that time with that kind of money I had. So, but I had to spend $150, believe it or not, for 6 months. I had to walk to school. So I walked in snow. I didn't have gloves. I didn't have anything, and I had only tennis shoes I brought in from Nigeria. And it was very, very hard. I walked more than 10 kilometers to school and back. And one day, I stood on the bus lane, and I had only 25 cents left, not in America, but in the world. And I entered the bus, and the bus driver said, yes, I put in money in the till, so I did. I put 25 cents. He said, that would be 50 cents, please.
Wow.
I had no 25 cents, so I said, that's all the money I had. So he put his hand in his pocket, and he took 25 cents out, and he put it in, got me to school. And when I got me to school, I went to see one of my professors who was there, whose name was John Connors, Professor John Connors. And he said, Akin, I wanted to see you because we had an exam just before, about 3 days before. And your script came back and you scored 54%. Now, 54% was a failing grade. And he said, what in the world is wrong with you? Because you are the best student by far in this whole class. Something went wrong. I said, Professor, I haven't eaten for the last 3 days.
Wow.
So last thing on my mind was the exam. I was just drinking water for 3 days. And so he took out his checkbook, wrote me a check for $100. And that was how I got additional money to, like a fuel,
Wow.
to keep me going. But cut a long story short, as I was getting out of his office, he said, oh, go to room 575. I said, what is that? He said, just go over there. I went over there. I met a man whose name was Professor Philip Abbott, mathematician. And he said, well, he always backed the door. And he backed the door. And he said, who's there? I said, additional. He said, look, are you a Nigerian student? I said, yes. He said, I hear you're very smart. I said, no, I don't know anything about that. He said, I hear you don't have money. That is absolutely correct. I have absolutely no money. And he said, you have an assistantship.
Wow.
I said, what does that mean? He said, it means that you have a full scholarship for the rest of your master's training, and you will get $575 a month. You can imagine what's
wow.
So that was how I started.
So it was a miracle everywhere.
It was a miracle. And when I finished that, I also got a PhD scholarship. I got my training done and all of that. And at the end of my training, my final exam in the same course, I got a 94%.
Wow.
And I went back to the same professor, and he never gave me my script ever since that time. So he took it out of the drawer, he ripped it off. I gave him $100 back to repay him for all the money he gave me. And I shook my hand and said, congratulations, doctor. So it's an abridged version of the grace of God that saw me through a very difficult situation. And when I finished, I had the outstanding PhD thesis in the university. So it's been God's grace all the way.
I can imagine. I can imagine from living hand to mouth, from living in the Shanty Hotel in New York, and just going through. Let's talk about your wife real quickly.
Oh, my wife
stood by you. I mean, just go ahead, serenade.
No, Grace is, Grace.
She's grace, so much grace.
She's God grace, and Yemisi, which also means God honors me. So she comes from a wonderful family, and Grace is the best. Marrying her is the best decision I ever made in my life. Of all the decisions.
Tell me about it.
Absolutely. I was right there in the university. She was in the university with me, and we were sitting there. I was sitting in a cafeteria in the university with a friend of mine, and there walks in. It was in 1970. It was 1980, and there comes somebody who walks in and looks at us, and I looked at her. And she came to our table, and I said, what's your name? She's very beautiful, so I caught my attention. And so we got introduced to each other by this friend of ours, mutual friend. And I said, what's your room number? And she told me her wholesaler room number. But immediately I was so excited I forgot. My heart was palpitating and so on. So afterwards, I got her room number. I went in there. You know, I was a pretty good cook, right? So I put all my skills into making this fried chicken, well done and everything, like all the spices you can imagine. I did it, and I took it to her hostel, and I put it next to her bed with a note. She wasn't there, with a guy you met yesterday at the canteen. And that was how we struck our relationship. I think she was excited that, oh, this guy can cook. And anyway, the rest is history.
As they say.
Yeah, but my wife is my best friend. She's my counselor. She's my prayer partner. She's my strength. You know, she is several times sharper than myself. And I actually, there's nothing that I do that I don't discuss intellectually with her, because she holds me intellectually on the grinding mill. So I used to tell President Jonathan when I was minister in Nigeria that, Mr. President, it's not possible for me to come to the Federal Executive Council and bring a memo here that is rejected. And he said, no, Akin, what do you mean by that? He said, well, because it has to go through a grace test at home.
Yeah,
and it was
a process.
A very, very brutal process. And so that's who she is. She supports me. She's a great listener. She's a great supporter. And she put her career on hold all throughout these years, just listening to me, supporting me, and helping me. So whatever I am today is a joint work of ours over the years. And President Obasanjo is the one who gets it really well. He says, well, Akin, he calls me Akin 45. And he calls Yemisi Grace, he calls her Yemisi 55. And I asked him why. He said, because 55% of your success is due to her, and 45% is due to me. I've been trying to get 1% more since that time. I've not succeeded.
That's a good place not to succeed as. Let's talk about also this story of you coming back, you know, to Nigeria, then serving in Jonathan's cabinet, then fighting the mafia in the fertilizer sector.
Yeah, you know, first and foremost, I owe a lot of gratitude to President Obasanjo. Because when he nominated me to be considered as a minister in Nigeria, he didn't tell me. I had no clue to President Jonathan. I just got a call from President Jonathan saying I should come to Nigeria. So I called Baba, you know, I said, Baba, what's this? Oh, he said, oh, by the way, yeah. I mentioned your name, just casually like that. And that was how I went to Nigeria. And of course, then I was appointed by President Jonathan to be his minister. You know, for me, public service, because I grew up, my father was a public servant, and in those days, civil service was really very, very rigorous. I come to public service with exactly that in mind, public service, to make sure that you deliver good service, responsible service, efficient service, and credible service to people. And I always put people at the core of what I do, because it came from my own background. The village school that I went, people matter to me more than anything else. So when I became minister, I said to myself, well, look, the first thing I have to do is that the farmers must get access to inputs. So if they don't get access to very good quality seeds or fertilizers, I might as well just pack my bag and go home, because the whole system that I met on ground was highly inefficient. Government bureaucracy, government will buy fertilizers and store fertilizers and distribute fertilizers through different channels. And for decades, an average of 11% of all the fertilizers bought and sold by government ever got to the farmers. So it's like the fertilizers developed legs and hands and walked away, you know, to other countries and all of that. So one morning I got up and I told my wife, I said, look, honey, I'm going to have to fight this system down. If I don't succeed, then I should pack my bags and go back home. And of course, what I did was I figured out that, you know, Coca-Cola, everywhere you went, in any part of Africa, you'll find Coca-Cola in the remotest of villages. But the government wasn't buying Coca-Cola. It wasn't distributing Coca-Cola. So why couldn't I find Coca-Cola there, or Fanta, or anything? How come I can't find seed and fertilizers? That means it's a very, very bad system. So I made a decision that I will not sign any fertilizer contract or any seed contract with anybody as minister for 4 years. All the seed companies, all the fertilizer companies have to be like Coca-Cola. Get your product to those that need it. All I had to do from the government side is make sure they have support to have effective demand for the product that you have. But that value chain you have to build all the way to yourself. And then we built a machinery that from, it took some of these small shops that sell you Fanta, Coke, and cigarettes in the villages. We turned them into input suppliers, right? Last mile delivery all across the country. It was revolutionary. So, and I started something called the electronic wallet system, which was a way in which you delivered digitized payments to farmers by their phones with vouchers for buying seeds and fertilizers. It doesn't matter which part of the country you are in, you could get access to it. So we ended decades of corruption in the fertilizer sector using that system.
What was the backlash like? Because you faced a lot of backlash then. In fact, a lot of people tried twisting the narrative of what happened then. What was the backlash like, and how did you surmount it?
I remember telling my wife, I said, honey, look, I'm about to embark on a very, very dangerous pathway here. God help me as I go, but I cannot guarantee you that I'll be back alive. That's what I told her. Because, look, whatever is worth doing, you do it for God, you do it for people. You have to take risk on the behalf of those that have no voice.
So you feared you could have been killed when you were trying to tackle?
Well, I wouldn't say kill. I thought it was a very dangerous thing to do.
Mafia.
I was aware of how dangerous that was. But I wasn't deterred, is what I wanted to say. We went after to try and deal with that. And what we did, basically, there was a lot of resistance. Of course, the fertilizer importers were not happy, the seed importers were not happy, and so on. But I think they tested me and see whether I was going to be worried. I wasn't worried. But President Jonathan stood behind me like a rock, and so that helped my policy. And what we did was just bring in transparency. Look, if you have a bunch of thieves in a room, right? All you have to do is just bring in light, and they'll be running out, because transparency is so important. And so I decided that, okay, digital technology, mobile phones, farmers had mobile phones, and when you were saying that people some people thought I actually bought phones and gave them to farmers. No, it was not true. The farmers had their phones. All we had to do is, I got your biometric information, and we were able to take your ID number to that biometric information into your phone number, and we registered you all across the country. So the farmers got their inputs in the remotest of villages. But just to finish that point, that program worked so much that the percentage of farmers that received government subsidized fertilizers increased from 11% historical to 94%. So all that transformation, massive, you saw in Nigeria, was because we were able to end that corruption and get the farm inputs to the farmers and see what they did. I trust Nigerian farmers a lot.
But like they say, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. You have left now. Most of those successes have been rolled back. We're having food problems. Growing food, not only in Nigeria, not the African continent, it's a big problem. We're seeing the problem even with wheat to be able to get by, where there are improved varieties that we've not been able to harness. Also, climate change is also affecting our growth prospect. Now you now serve, in the African Development Bank. Have you been able to surmount some of those challenges, with the funding they give and also with the advocacy you do?
Well, if you take a look at Africa, for example, I don't believe, Africa has 65% of the uncultivated arable land left in the world to feed 9.5 billion people by 2050, or maybe 10 billion people by 2050. And so what Africa does with that agriculture is going to determine the future of food in the world. So when I was elected president of the bank, of course, given my experience, I'm an agricultural economist by training, and I've worked globally all of my life in different areas. And so I know exactly what needed to be done. And so I launched something called a High Five program to light up and power Africa, to feed Africa, which is the second one, to industrialize Africa, to integrate Africa, and to improve the general quality of life of people. So that has to be education, water, sanitation, health, and skills and jobs and all of those things. But in the case of agriculture that you mentioned, I launched through the African Development Bank a $25 billion program over 10 years to turn around agriculture for the continent. And look, we are making incredible progress, and I'll tell you a few about it. For example, take a look, you're talking about the issue of wheat. In Ethiopia, in 2008, we have a program called Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation, that brings together the global agricultural research system, the national agricultural research system, the regional agricultural research system, and the private sector, right? And we were able to provide them with drought-tolerant seed varieties of wheat. Those heat-tolerant wheat varieties, the Prime Minister is a good friend of my Prime Minister, Abiy. You know, they started cultivating in Ethiopia. I think they did 5,000 hectares in 2018. Do you know how much they did last year?
How much?
2.2 million hectares.
From 500,000 hectares?
Yeah. And within 4 years, they became self-sufficient in wheat. And now Ethiopia, for the first time in its history, is a net exporter of wheat. Now, the other thing that we are doing in agriculture, because, you know, I've always said agriculture is the way in which we're going to transform rural African economies. You know why? 85% of our population, 85%, are in rural areas. So if you cannot have economic transformation without actually having agricultural transformation, as that's what's going to touch the lives of people at the bottom. So we have a big program today that's called Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones, which is developing new economic zones all across Africa, close to where the farmers are. And these have enabling infrastructure, power, water, roads, and digital infrastructure, irrigation, and all of that. You know, and why? Because they are the ones, the companies that will buy products from farmers, they will process it, right? You will create a new ecosystem of wealth in the rural economies, it create a lot of jobs, and then you don't lose all the commodities that you actually produce and you're taking out of the rural areas into the urban areas because of poor infrastructure. So today we are investing about over $3 billion in that in more than 11 countries. In Nigeria, for example, I helped to put together an $851 million program in Nigeria. Ourselves, African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, the International Fund for Agriculture, we were able to do that. And the Africa Investment Forum, which we held in December last year, you know, I got governors across from Nigeria that came into a boardroom with me about how we can raise more money for this in Nigeria. Guess what? We wanted to raise $750 million. We raised $2.2 billion for that for Nigeria. And later, that has grown to $4.4 billion. So now we'll be able to develop those special agro-industrial processing zones in all states of Nigeria, all the remaining states, all 36 states, and the Federal Capital Territory. So this is working in several African countries. It's also going to have to work in Nigeria. So those are some of the things that we did.
Okay. But the argument has always been, with over 30 million square kilometers of land, a lot of uncultivated arable land, the big question is, when are we going to get off aid? And I say that in relation to what is happening in America today, with USAID cut short, you know, Trump coming in with the tariffs and all of that. Africa is beginning to see that this aid is not sustainable. When are we going to turn it to trade? When is that industrialization going to kick in? I know you did something around energy recently with Mission 300, but we want to see that big push in the door.
Yeah, you know, I mean, talking more globally and also across Africa, you know, fundamentally, I don't believe Africa should beg its way to development. You know, Africa can be supported, but I have always believed that development must be done with pride, right? You must be able to say, I'm better than this. I do this for my own pride, for my own people.
So you think it's a good thing that the aid is all off the table now?
Well, look, I mean, if you have a baby that is born, the baby is fed on milk. A time comes when that baby has to start eating solid food, start eating meat, and start growing up. So I think that for low-income countries, for fragile states, that has been helpful. But I do think that for countries to develop or accelerate their development, they need to have concessional financing, which is not aid, right? They need to also be able to mobilize their domestic resources, to be able to get their institutional capital working for them. Look, you were mentioning the whole issue of President Trump and all of that, and so many people all get so
worried and worked up. Yeah?
I'm not.
Really?
No. The reason I'm not is that, look, he was elected by the American people to be their president, and is running a domestic policy that he believes is in the interest of his country. What we've got to do is to run what's in the interest of our nations and what's in the interest of Africa. Why should I be worried? You take a look at a continent that has 65% of the arable land to feed the world, right? It's not in Asia, it's not in America, it's not in China or any part of the world. So what Africa does with agriculture will determine the future of food in the world. Why should I be worried? When we have 477 million young people below the age of 35, that's going to make Africa the workforce of the world, brimming with talent, entrepreneurship, and skills and capacities. Why should I be worried when it comes to the issue of renewable energy in the world? The largest renewable energy sources are in Africa. Why should I be worried when it has to do with energy transition that you mentioned globally? Look, today, everything you need for
Shouldn't you be worried because of leadership?
No, I will come back to that.
Yeah.
But on the issue of electric vehicles, for example, take lithium-ion batteries, for example. Everything you need, from platinum, a group of metals, to cobalt, to graphite, to copper, to everything that you need, to lithium, are in Africa. And lithium, for example, I mean, just DRC alone, in terms of platinum, probably accounts for 90% of the global platinum supply. And this is what you need, right, to be able to do, mobile phones, lithium-ion batteries, and so on. The size of that market, Rufai, just the lithium-ion batteries, is going to be roughly about $7 trillion by 2030. But by 2050, that market, on electric vehicle market, is going to be worth $59 trillion. And so it's a question of how you develop, position yourself, but develop your own manufacturing capacity so that you are not selling raw materials. Because when you sell raw materials, if somebody slams a tariff for selling raw materials, it's not strategic for them. But if I'm actually selling you semiconductors, if I'm selling things that you need, right, it's very, very difficult for you to just wave me around like that. So I think the lesson there is for African nations to industrialize. Look, we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The size of that market is $3.4 trillion, right? And so in finance, if you want to reduce your risk, you do what? You diversify your portfolio. Same thing works for trade. So you make your local market very strong. You make your purchasing power very high. And then you have integrated markets. Whether you integrate your financial markets, you integrate your stock exchanges, you mobilize domestic capital, you do industrial development, value-added products in your own region, then you use your zone to develop and consume what you're producing. So all I'm saying is that it's a wake-up call to continue to do the right thing. We have to make Africa great.
Again,
we have to make it great.
Great. But all of this rests with leadership.
Yes.
On the African continent, you talked about DRC. See what is happening between Rwanda and Congo. On the African continent, we've had leaders that have not been able to catalyze all of this greatness Africa has got. So all of this is great, but when there's a leadership gap, then it becomes problematic. So how can we build the frontiers or the new leaders of the future?
No, absolutely.
How can we build the likes of the new Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara that says we must reimagine the future, because Africa is not doing that?
Well, first and foremost, I want to be clear that we shouldn't generalize about Africa. That's what I hear, because I'm president of African Development Bank. Today, you take a look at the growth. Just because we have some challenges, everybody has challenges. It's like being a family, right? Have you ever seen a family that doesn't have its own challenges? Okay, so it depends on how you play it up. Some people just go out and find a little thing wrong in Africa, or maybe, and make it into a big issue, right? You have a conflict somewhere, you have a feeling there as if the whole continent is at war. And those things affect the credit ratings of the country. So there's a lot of misperception when it comes to that. I'm not excusing the fact that there are some challenges. I'm only saying that let's not overgeneralize with regard to that. Now, to the point that you raised, yeah, leadership is critical. Leadership that uses resources well. Leadership that is people-centric. Leadership that is accountable, right? Leadership that fast-tracks development. Look, I don't think it's a brain surgery to actually be an advanced, developed country. If you look at those countries, what do? They invest in human capital. They invest in infrastructure. They have solid macroeconomic fundamentals. They have fiscal regime that allows them to mobilize more resources. They direct those resources to the areas that are needed. Right? They build their infrastructure over time. They also make sure that they have a good, transparent governance system for the most part that allows private capital to come into their economies and to grow. So it's all about doing the right thing. So when people say leadership sometimes, I find it somewhat too generic for me. It's like saying, you need a doctor. No, the question is, you need a good doctor who knows what they're doing. And so it's people-centric, accountable leadership that we need. And we've seen that in many, many African countries, I must tell you, despite some of the challenges that we see. Today, you have 9 out of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are not in Asia, they're actually in Africa. We've been supporting many of these countries. I see a lot of great leadership in many, many of these countries. But to your point about conflicts, yes, if you wake me up and you say, look, Akin, what is your greatest challenge in Africa right now? What makes you lose sleep? I'll tell you it's insecurity. Yeah, because the challenge is that insecurity, except for the cases like we have maybe in Sudan, and also we have the challenge in DRC Congo, between Rwanda and DRC Congo. But for the most part, a lot of what is driving those insecurity is actually not interstate conflict. It's poverty. It's climate change, environmental degradation, and lack of economic opportunities for young people. So we just got to go back and deal with those fundamental issues. Because look, when people don't have jobs, a free hand is a devil's workshop. Yeah. And so we got to make sure our young people have skills, they have jobs. We must hold ourselves accountable for the young people of this continent. Look, I can't accept the future of Africa's youth lies in Europe. I was with Prime Minister of Italy, and we're discussing. I said, she's my very good friend, and I said, look, Madam Prime Minister, no, the future of Africa's youth is not in Europe. It's not in Italy. It's not in Latin America. It's not even in America or Canada or anywhere else. I'm not against people migrating. No, don't get me wrong. But it must be in an Africa growing well. Quality growth. Accountable for its youth. Look, how can my demographic asset become your own problem? No, I've got to manage my economies better. So I think that part of responsible leadership is also responsive leadership to the growing part of our population, which is the young people. Coming back to Nigeria, for example, you have this thing called the Jakpa.
Yeah. People are leaving the country.
No, people are leaving. Yeah. No, we have to turn that around.
It's a brain game?
Well, we've got to really believe first in the youth. Look, I go around many African countries, and I'm told, well, we have a youth empowerment program. Yeah, I hear that quite a lot. I don't know what it means. Because hardly have I seen any young person walk up to me and say, I've been empowered. So I don't know if people trying to empower them while they're empowering themselves. No, what the young people need, Rufai, is investment. They need trust, confidence, capital behind them. That is what led me at the bank. I look at all the commercial banks in all of Africa, and I see they were not lending to young people. All our young people are going to flying out and going. And that makes me ashamed as president of African Development Bank, and I can't take it. Because that's a market failure. That's a missing institution problem. And I said, look, we're going to change that. That's why the African Development Bank today, we are rolling out what's called Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Banks. These are new financial institutions dedicated only to providing capital, investment capital to turn the ideas of our young people into great businesses. Why can't we have Zuckerbergs coming out of Africa? Why can't we have Bill Gates and also coming out of Africa? So what I'm saying is that we must, part of leadership is recognizing your constituency. The largest constituency you have is the young people. And it's not throwing them crumbs, right? Okay, it's trying to turn that demographic asset into a powerful economic dividend. That's how you get respect.
But it rests on capital, like I said before. It also rests on leadership. With having a disruptive mindset, you faced a lot of challenges. Yeah. I remember the tiff that happened when you were trying to get your second term. How did you navigate through those challenges? Because a lot of people don't still even believe in this foresight you have for Africa. They don't still even believe and say, oh, Why is he investing so much money in the young people? Why is he being more out there? Why is he raising money for Mission 300, to be able to power Africa? It's never going to go along with. So there are still the doubters that are there. How do we drive them to this dream of this greater Africa? And how do you surmount those challenges when you feel betrayed? Especially when you start from when you were trying to get a second term to start with.
No, you see, the thing is that every time that you have an assignment, when I was elected president of the bank, this is not a job for me. I don't have a job. That's not a job. It's a mission. I can't think of anything more important to have the resources, to have the support, and to have the platform to go and change and transform the continent of my birth. So it is not a job, it's a mission, and that's how I look at it every single day. In the last more than 8 years, 9 years, our work has impacted from the bank on more than 500 million people, 500 million people, from access to electricity, to water, to sanitation, to people that are getting access to good health, and food security. I'm proud of what we've done. I'm proud of the progress we are making. I'm proud of the leadership that we have. But you cannot succeed in life if you're hoping that people are just going to be applauding you and supporting you. Look, every time that you move, there's going to be an opposition against what you want to do. Question is whether you really believe in what you do. I solidly believe in an Africa that I'm impatient with Africa's underdevelopment, and I think we need to move much faster. And so, for example, at the African Development Bank, that's what we've been doing. And, when the challenges came in 2020, there was really nothing wrong here. Every time that you do something, you find people that try to...
There are a lot of daggers being thrown at you.
Oh, no, I know.
At some point, people felt, will he survive this?
Well, the truth always wins. You may not like the sun, but if you don't like it, all you have to do is cover your eyes because you can't stop it, right? And so we continue to do our work, and I think I'm very pleased that people recognize that all those things were basically crap. They were all fabricated things. And when it was time for me to be re-elected, I was re-elected for my second term in those turbulent period by all the shareholders of the bank with 100% of the vote of the shareholders. I have two shareholders, African share. We have in the bank, African shareholders. We have 54 of those. We have 27 of those that are non-African. So we have 81 shareholders. So I was elected 100% by all the African shareholders. I was elected 100% by the non-African shareholders. And we work like this as a team, and we've been able to do all these things that we've done. Look, same shareholders, they have great confidence in my leadership and vision. I got a letter from the Secretary Yellen of the Treasury Department, who just left before President Trump came in, about the last week in the administration, praising my leadership, my vision, and the way in which I've taken this bank to a global stage. Look, I don't accept that African institutions have to be mediocre. I'm not used to mediocrity at all. And so I'll fight for that. It's all about leadership, it's all about vision. It's all about propelling the institution to be all that's supposed to be. We raised the capital of the bank.
Yeah, that was the first
when I came in 2015, the capital of the bank was $93 billion.
Yeah.
I raised it with support of my shareholders today to $318 billion. Now, the bank, because of our work, we were ranked by Global Finance 2 years ago as the best multilateral financial institution in the world. And just 2 years ago and last year, we were ranked, the African Development Bank, as the most transparent financial institution in the world. And so today, I feel proud that I'll be leaving behind a global institution, respected institution, but more than that, a solutions-minded financial institution dedicated to accelerating the development of Africa relentlessly. And so that is what we were asked to do. That's what the founding fathers of these institutions asked us to do. People always say, look, I have great ambitions. I don't like small stuff. Look, God giving us oxygen, right? That oxygen will have an expiration date, whether you like it or you don't. Question is, why not use that oxygen to do big things? Why use it to do small things? I believe in big transformational things, but I don't believe in the power of me. No. I believe in the power of us, the ability to get people to focus, to work together. Look, you were mentioning the whole issue of energy just now. Myself and the president of the World Bank, Ajay Banga, we got together, and I remember telling Ajay Banga, president of the World Bank, look, we have been working at the African Development Bank since I've been here. We've connected more than 25 million people to electricity, but that's not enough. So I said, look, Ajay, why don't you join me? Why don't we work together? You know, people don't eat your flag or my flag, right? People just want to have electricity. And so that's what we launched Mission 300, to connect, provide access to electricity for 300 million Africans by 2030. Because big issues, you know, it's just like surgery. Have you ever gone to a surgical table and see a doctor walk alone? No.
There's a team.
There's a team. So we got to learn to, it's not about ego, it's not about you. It's about ability to forge alliances and strategic partnerships that brings the future of those poor people that we are supposed to be serving, bring it with a high discount rate to now. Why should everything good in African people's lives be in the future? Why is that? So we've got to be able to solve big problems, solve them very, very quickly, because the poor can't wait.
Okay, so a couple of months from now, you're going to be leaving this job. You know, you've done so well. You got in where you were 55. Today, you're 65, still dancing. I mean, I'm sure people have been seeing the footage from the party we had yesterday and all of that. Question is, a lot of people are asking, what's next for you? You want to give a shot at the presidency of your own country? I mean, because this is what Africa needs. We need forthright thinkers that can move the needle as regards developments. You've been president of African Development Bank, you've done a lot of impact, and people are looking, what's next for you?
What do you think I should be doing?
Why don't you want to run for president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
You know, one of the things that I'm grateful for as a Nigerian, many, many years when I was in graduate school in Nigeria, even after that, I had an opportunity to have obtained a U.S., you know, I was given a great visa, but I would have actually gotten a U.S. citizenship, and I said I didn't want it. Not because I don't like America. My kids are Americans, and they were born there. But I remember telling a colleague of mine that this passport is a Nigerian passport, green passport. I cannot and I will never trade it for anything. It gives me a lot of hell. Wherever I go, you know, we're traveling, my kids are probably asked to go right through, and I'm asked to stay behind, and they ask you all kind of funny questions. When were you born? And when do you hope to die? Or any kind of question, just to make sure that you don't get in. But I told this friend of mine that in making me a Nigerian, he didn't make a mistake in making me an African. That I will live as a Nigerian, and I will walk by the special grace of God. That passport, that green passport, will be respected just like everybody else in the world, right? You don't beg for respect, you earn respect. So when you were talking about what will I do after, you know, I started this interview by telling you that I always believe in the providence of God, the grace of God. I don't see myself as more than just an instrument in the hands of God to help people. Look, the only thing that makes me happy, there's nothing else that makes me happy than seeing lives of people transform, change. That's what gives me satisfaction. And so as a result of that, you know, I will be available to serve in any capacity, globally, in Africa, anywhere, including in my own country.
Including Nigeria?
Yeah.
Including the highest seat in the land?
You know, because I remember that's a song, you know, we're talking, thanks for coming for my party, by the way. You are such a great dancer, you know, you rock that place. And,
I'm happy that the president endorsed my dancing.
Yeah. But I remember one of the songs that I actually like in Nigeria. It's by a great singer, pop artist, Davido.
Yeah.
And I think that song was I'm unavailable, I'm unavailable. They know they see me, I'm unavailable. But in the case where it comes to service of any kind, I would ask Davido to change that song so I am available, then go see me. So no, I'll be available to serve in God's hand for anything that God has in store for my life.
So for you, it's going to be a life of service. You're available for national service, and you're ready to come back home, because after this 10 years you've spent now in Abidjan, the next phase is about creating more impact. I want you to say something to that young African that had crossroads in their life. Probably they are stuck somewhere, schooling. Maybe when you were like in Purdue, they had almost nothing in their pocket in the bitter cold of wherever country in the West, but has a heart and passion for change and development, that wants to do something and make something out of their life. They might be like you, maybe like 20, 30 years ago, but they don't have that compass to lead them home. What would you say to them?
Well, first and foremost, be tenacious. Have confidence in yourself. It is not where you started from that matters. It's not even where you were born. I wasn't born with silver spoon in my mouth. But keep working hard. Believe in yourself and trust in God. Don't also think that life is a bed of roses. You have to have great hard work. And so for young people that are listening to me today, all I just want to say is be focused, be purposeful. Don't copy bad guys. Some people want things the easy way. Money is not success. No. You can have all the money in the world that you want. At the end of the day, you're going to leave it behind anyway. How many people have, taken money with them? No. Having your mind to create impact through your knowledge, through your skills, through your businesses, through the things that you do on a day-to-day basis on what will impact and transform the lives of people. People are remembered not by the money they have. They are remembered by the kindness that they show. They are remembered by the people that they touch. And I always say, come back to the issue of leadership. I always say that the most important thing for a leader to have is kindness. Kindness. And so I'll say that trust God, and whenever God gives you opportunity, do the right things. But whatever you do, be kind.
Thank you so much. That's about all we can take at this time. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's been great.
Hopefully you'll be back for my 100th birthday. So.
I can't wait for it. We're going to be dancing that day.
We'll still be dancing.
Yeah, we'll still be dancing. Thank you so much. I've been talking to Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. It's sad to say the outgoing president of the African Development Bank, and he shared his vision. And like he said in this interview, for more service, for national service, he's available. Thank you, sir. Well, thank you all so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.